Today I'm going to show you how to make the joyful jelly roll tree skirt, which can also be a wall hanging. All you need is one molded jelly roll and 2 1/4 yards of background fabric. You're also going to need 2 Creative Grids rulers. The first one is the 6.5 by 24.5 inch ruler, which most of us already have, and then you're going to need the 11.5 inch square ruler to square up your blocks. I'm going to be using Kate Spain's Jingle Collection by Moda Fabrics for a bright, cheery feel. So go to Fat Quarter Shop, purchase your pattern, and let me show you lots of tips on how to work with bias seams. First, you're going to assemble 2 fabric A rectangles and 4 fabric F rectangles. You're going to assemble them where there's approximately 2 inches between each strip, and it doesn't have to be perfect, just make it a guess. And then I'm going to use matching thread, so today I'm using Artful Color 2000. So we've sewn all this together, and we're going to take our Creative Grid 6.5 by 24.5 inch ruler, and we're going to cut a 6.5 inch strip all the way down the center. So to do that, we're going to put a 45-degree angle line right here, so we know. And you know, if you do it this way on the Creative Grids ruler, it's not going to work. So we're going to turn the ruler upside down, and I'm going to use a pin to make a mark before I cut. And the reason I'm not going to cut is because I want to turn it over and have the fabric grips down before I cut. You can use any pin you want because you're going to cut this off. But today I'm using a friction pin. Okay, so we've drawn our line, 45-degree angle, and we're going to cut. So I'm just going to follow the line that we had already made, and we're just going to cut. Then you're going to get rid of this, and you're just going to flip it around and cut 6.5 inches. And hold your ruler down, and it'll be exactly 6.5 inches wide. You're going to make 4 of these. Now we're going to make 4 more units doing the exact opposite. So you're going to lay out your fabric A and fabric F rectangles going the opposite direction and use the same 2-inch gap. Then you're going to use your ruler. This time it can be right sides up. You're going to lay it down. And when you lay it down, you want to make sure you've got enough overhang on both sides. And this time you can just cut, and we're going to make 4 of these units. Now we're going to assemble the 2 units we just made. Now these are all bias seams. So it's very wavy, it's very stretchy, and you're going to see these don't match. It does not matter. I'm going to show you how to really get this to work. So you're going to put the seams right sides together, and your seams are going to nest. So one seam goes to the left, one seam goes to the right. You're going to push the seams into each other and just pin directly into each of the seams to start. Okay, so now I've got a lot of seams, and you probably think that's way too many seams, but it's really not, because you're working on the bias. It's going to really give you that perfect look. So you're going to start sewing in the very center all the way to the edge. And then you're going to start previous, so you cover up your previous stitches and sew all the way to the end. Because you're working on the bias, everything waves. And so when you start sewing, you don't want it to wave into your stitches. So start in the center, go out, and then the center, go out. So you've sewn your arrow, and you've got the top of the arrow and the bottom of the arrow. You're going to leave the top untouched, and we're going to cut the bottom. Take your ruler and lay it right on the seam, and you're just going to cut. Don't pay attention to any of these lines. Only cut directly from the end of each point, and you're going to cut. You're going to make 4 point blocks. So you're going to assemble 9 fabric B strips, and you can see, you don't have to line up the ends, just throw it together. You're going to take your 11.5 inch square ruler. On your 5th strip, you're going to figure out where the center is approximately. And you're going to make sure the tips are about the same size, and we're just going to cut all the way around this ruler. Now I'm going to rotate the ruler because I don't want to cut myself. And you've got a perfect 11.5-inch square, and you're going to make 4 of these blocks. You're going to take the unit you just made and you're going to make sure the direction is going this way. You're going to add a fabric E rectangle and press. Then you're going to add a fabric D rectangle and press. You're going to make 4 corner blocks. Now we're ready to put our quilt together, and this is the most difficult part of this quilt. You're going to be assembling your point blocks to your corner blocks, and I'm going to give you some tips here. These 2 points should not match, so do not stretch them to match, because right here, again, all bias. So what I do, I put my fabrics right sides together and I'm going to pin my corner. And I'm just going to gently lay my fabrics without pulling. You're going to see all these seams, they do not match. Do not worry about them. This seam right here, though, you want all your seams to be a similar distance apart. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this back to about 1/4 inch, because this is where your seams are going to meet. Now I'm going to measure the distance between each, and I've got about 3/8 of an inch. So each time when I'm pinning, I'm going to try to be around 3/8 of an inch apart, and then you're going to see that your whole quilt is going to look uniform. And they all come out to about 3/8 of an inch. If they don't, you just want to gently pull so they all are. Now again, I'm going to pin lots of times all the way down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start stitching right before my white intersection, stitch to the end. I'm going to come back and start stitching so I cover my previous stitches and go all the way to the end. You're going to have the least amount of stretching that way, and you're going to have consistent points throughout. To assemble your quilt center, lay out 4 corner blocks, 4 point blocks, and the fabric C square. Sew your rows together and press. Assemble your rows to form your quilt center. So now you've still got the top of your arrows hanging free, and all you do is just trim them off. It's really simple. Now we're going to turn this beautiful quilt into a tree skirt. So your first step is to get it quilted and trim around your edges. Then we're going to cut a circle in the very center square. You can use a bowl from your kitchen, or today I'm going to be using Lori Holt's circle ruler, her 7-inch size. And the reason I'm using that one is it's got lines that go both directions, so I can really see my center. So I'm going to use a friction pin, and I'm just going to draw my circle first. After you've drawn your circle, we're going to cut in the very center of the point block all the way through, and we're going to go into the circle. So now you have this opening, and we're going to cut the circle with scissors that are really sharp. To finish your tree skirt, cut 270 inches of bias binding. Bias binding is much more stretchy, so it's going to go around your circle and give it a nicer finish than straight binding would. I can't wait to see all of your Christmas tree skirts, and I hope that this pattern is going to liven up and add some joy to your Christmas celebrations. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see more projects just like this.